This video is sponsored by Bityard. With over 400 cryptocurrencies to choose from on their spot exchange, dozens of USDT pairs for futures trading, perpetual coin futures, trade commodities like gold, silver and oil, Forex, and major indices like Nasdaq. You can buy crypto from Bityard with over 50 different fiat currencies using Visa, MasterCard, Google or Apple Pay. If you like, you can use their copy trade facility, follow other traders who will execute trades on your behalf, or become a copy trader yourself. So if you want a bit of that, click the link in the description. Hello everybody, welcome back. Let's have a quick look at Bitcoin. We're going to think about the broader picture of what it's going to be like to trade throughout probably the majority of this year, maybe into next year as well. There's still going to be some serious opportunities in it, but it's going to be more of a trader's market rather than buy and watch everything go up in value. Which has been pretty good while it lasted, but now it's back to how it was, and it'll probably stay like this for a little while. But that's good. That is actually good. In my opinion, what we're going to start to see is a market similar to one of 2019 and the majority of 20, which is effectively a sideways, choppy testing range, right? So we've not had obviously any major upside for a while. We had what could have been what I thought was an accumulation area, which is obviously broken down now. So we're back into a lower zone, and we do realistically threaten the concept of definitely going lower than this. Maybe down to 24 next stop, and then after that potentially maybe towards 20 potentially over time, but not immediately. So for those who haven't been around for very long, this is what the Bitcoin chart looked like before it went crazy. So we were all very much aware of the previous all-time high of 20,000, the bear market and the bottom. Most of us got in around this level and we saw a nice big rally, but then after that rally, it was quite testing because Bitcoin wasn't what it was today. There wasn't all these big institutions and credible, intelligent people around the world suggesting that it's the new future of this, that, and the other. There weren't countries buying it up. Effectively, what it was a bubble surrounded by scam and darknet business. It wasn't very popular, and again, Matt Damon saying be brave and buy crypto. The bravest time to buy crypto was when it was down here, because even though in hindsight you can look back and go, wow, 3,000, 4,000, which is effectively where me and a lot of people bought down here, and that's where I started my channel. I thought I'll start the channel as I go through this, go hard and heavy into crypto basically, but at the time there was a very, very dark, uncertain vibe about it, because 3,000, 4,000, which is, let's just call it 4,000 was my entry point, and that is a lot of money, right? To be buying a load of Bitcoin, it is a lot of money, and like I say, in hindsight, you can look back and go, well, what a great entry point, what a cheap price for a Bitcoin. But actually, when you think about what Bitcoin was prior to that, we were talking 1,000. A few years prior to that, we're talking hundreds. A few years prior to that, we're literally just talking pennies. Do you know what I mean? And so buying a Bitcoin at 4,000 was still a bit daunting. Despite the charts and everything looking like it was an okay decision, it still felt pretty crazy. And I think people are going to be feeling that as we speak right now. Oh my god, am I buying Bitcoin at what, 30,000, at 24,000, even at 20,000? That would be kind of crazy. I remember when I was buying Bitcoin or trading into Bitcoin from altcoins when it was above 20,000, thinking to myself, I never thought I'd ever do that, because being in the market for so long, obviously buying so low, you do end up questioning yourself. I think you can, bloody hell, I never thought I'd buy Bitcoin over 20,000, but obviously I did, and like I say, that is I suppose there's a psychological component to this that we need to get over, because there's not just Bitcoin that goes up only. There's many charts that go up only, and we'll have a look at one of them now, which is the Nasdaq, right? So for market participants, you need to find an entry point, and when you find a chart that it's up only, the important thing is an entry point. It's not the perfect entry point. You want to take part in a market which basically performs this way. Bitcoin's one of them, Nasdaq's one of them. And the Nasdaq is coming down just like everything else, and it's finding itself a little bounce. Now, I found it interesting that it was bouncing in the pre-market yesterday when Bitcoin was bouncing from its capitulative low. Now, that might not be the ultimate low, but it was certainly a significant one. And I have a feeling that actually the Nasdaq was getting bought back up as a result of the performance of Bitcoin, because the two are correlated. And in this instance, I did feel as though the confidence of buying back into the Nasdaq was more likely because of the response that Bitcoin had from its low that it put in around 26. So, with that said, market participants, where would you like to enter? It doesn't really matter, I suppose, if you're a long-term position, and that goes with Bitcoin. It goes with the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq's got a nice little shooting star here. It's the opposite of a shooting star, but it looks like it wants to trend back up to its consolidation trend line over a period of weeks. That's what that candle body would suggest on a weekly. Now, Bitcoin's not got that. Bitcoin is certainly not quite as bullish when it comes to that. And bullish isn't the right word, but it's not quite as obvious when you look at that weekly. And again, the weekly's not yet closed. We could end up forming a candle body like that on the Nasdaq. But the long story short is that so long as we are able to close a weekly above the summer lows, which are the 28 to 29,000, if we can continue to close candles up there, I would expect this to be moved towards and to this descending trend line, just like we have on the Nasdaq. We've got one for Bitcoin. That's about the mid-30s. I would call it the mid-30s where we'll be looking to see that go. So that's my general projection for Bitcoin. So long as we can hold 28, 29,000, close upon there this week, then we'll get a weekly candle body closed on the summer lows, and we'll move up to 30, mid-30s, right? And then probably get rejected from there, and then come back down to at least revisit the summer lows, and maybe a bit lower, right? 24,000 being the next major level, which would be in between the 200 exponential and the 200 simple moving average there on the weekly. So these are specifically 22,000 and 25,000, give or take. So by order, considered to be for me around 24,000. We'll see what it looks like at the time. So that's Bitcoin, that is Nasdaq. They both look like they do want to bounce over a couple of weeks and then probably start to tail off as they hit those resistances and anticipate the next rate hike, which takes place next month. All right, and then I believe strongly that inflation is likely to peak next month, which will then, after the leading into the next rate hike, which is usually a bearish week or two, then I think that will add some more confidence, and we will then bounce once again across the board for Nasdaq, Bitcoin, and basically everything else. If inflation appears to have peaked and the numbers seem to be good, which I think it will, then yeah, confidence will enter the market, and we'll probably get some really decent rallies at that point. Between now and then, though, we're just going to be in a choppy range. It's going to be very difficult to trade it, right? And especially for altcoins, I say this, I've been saying it for weeks now, as we can continue to go down. Say altcoins, they don't really serve a purpose at the moment, unless, of course, you've got a very long-term plan for it. But the beauty of what's happening to altcoins at the moment is that they're getting absolutely wrecked, whereas Bitcoin is getting wrecked, but not quite as dramatic. So the idea is you pick up Bitcoin on the way down, dollar cost average, buy back from selling high or whatever it is that you're doing, but accumulate more Bitcoin as it goes down. Not get particularly concerned about exactly getting it at the absolute lows, but think about it as ammunition for altcoin trading, because my strategy is trading Bitcoin to altcoins and back into Bitcoin and back into altcoin. That is the nature of how I trade, constantly stacking sats, as they like to say. And so if we're coming back down to square one for altcoins, this is great. We were looking on the live stream last night about some of these smaller caps, anything on KuCoin, basically all those shit coins that we used to like trading, and thinking about should we buy them? And probably the best thing is probably no. They've come down to significant areas now, and if the Bitcoin dominance has got anything to go by, Bitcoin dominance is going to continue to move up, which means that there is only really one place to be, which is a Bitcoin position, unless of course you want some altcoins that you've got either a scoop on or you've got a plan for, and you're happy to hold throughout this choppy range, which is likely to hurt altcoins probably quite hard, especially the shitter ones, the higher risk ones. So most things on KuCoin effectively and lower. Now that's not always the case, because these things again can pop off left, right and center and do significant rallies. So painting them all with the same brush is not what I'm trying to do here. It's an overview of the market determined by a market cap dominance, right? So this is here on the weekly. Now, throughout this general market since 2019, since I started the channel, the Bitcoin dominance chart has been a very, very useful and successful component to trading, especially with my specific style, which is altcoins to Bitcoins and so on and so on and so on. we have simple horizontals, and you can have other simple chart formations, and you can also have other indicators just like the MACD and the RSI, which suggests certain movements, whether it's getting toppy or it's getting strong. And we've been basically accumulating down at these low levels, and we're looking to break out. MACD on the weekly here about to cross the 0 point, which is bullish. MACD on the monthly, about to cross bullish. And also on the daily, we are pretty bullish as well, above the 0 point now as well, with hidden bullish divergence. So, and again, and in a cumulative area. Now, if we're thinking about trading altcoins, thinking about alt seasons or alt rallies that will outperform Bitcoin, you think about this first of all in terms of its sideways horizontal resistances, right? So the first level, which probably will have a reaction, is here. It's the 47.5%. We may and probably will have a reaction there, but given everything we've looked at, all those divergences on all those higher term timeframes suggest that this will break out. This is something we've been saying for months, to be honest with you, since we came down here. The lower we go, I always say get back into a bigger Bitcoin position out of altcoins, we could play these micro rotations, which had an effect, but it was no way near the same type of effect that we've had in the past, where we come up to these significant highs and get these really long-standing, prolonged outperformance of Bitcoin for altcoins. This one being the absolute beast of one. So we're looking to play this rotation event again. The reason this chart is so good is because, let's just say the market is not receiving any new money. In fact, we can guarantee that is not the case. We know that money is coming out of the market, as they are all markets, right? And money will come back into the markets again. Of course they will. It will not dry up to zero. But if the market stays static, like it did for the most part of 2019, 2020, Bitcoin and the whole crypto market, in fact, was trading below $500 billion for a couple of years, right? Fluctuating for about 100 billion or whatever, but it was not in any way the behemoth that it became. And so a rotation out of Bitcoin into altcoins was actually required to make the most out of trading altcoins, because the money had to come from somewhere. And if there wasn't an enormous amount of new money coming in, because there wasn't, crypto was for the crypto traders, it wasn't for everybody. The retailers, generally en masse hadn't flowed into the market until 2021. So between 2019 and 2020, it was more or less a clicky kind of crypto trader vibe. And the rotations were very important, because if there's no new money coming into things to create those green candles, it needs to come out of something to go into whatever it is that you want. And the best way to think about it is, okay, money's going to come out of Bitcoin and into altcoins, and then it's going to go back out of altcoins into Bitcoin, and then back out of Bitcoin into altcoins, and then obviously more than that happened. But the rotation is an incredibly useful way of spotting what side of the fence you're going to be on, whether you're going to be on a Bitcoin or an altcoin position. Forget about being in a cash position. This is for stacking sats and trading, which is what I like to do. This is why I'm saying I'm happy to buy Bitcoin all the way down, because it loads me up with ammunition at the time that I might need it, while the Bitcoin dominance is low and looking to break out, so I can get as much Bitcoin as possible throughout this period and wait till the right time to go back into some significant altcoin positions for what would be an epic alt season. Normally you would get an alt season at least once a year, but rarely you would get it more than once a year, but you get a decent one at least once a year. Okay, so we are looking for one probably this year. When it will be, I couldn't tell you in a time frame. I could tell you, or at least hint to the very realistic possibility of there being one when we approach either this area, which would be small. I would much prefer to see this breakout first. This one, which would be bigger and probably come down to here, or even better if we came up to the 58 to 59, maybe 60% dominance, where we would likely get a much bigger rotation. So like I say, we don't need any more money necessarily to come into the market. This was a very tradable market while it was stagnant of its market cap of roughly about $500 billion. It was extremely tradable. And actually, this is where it becomes actually quite, pretty much a fun way of dealing with it, to be honest with you. Forget about what your Bitcoin's worth, just think about how many Bitcoins you've got and how many you're looking to attain, and this is the way to go about doing it. So this is the market we're likely to go into at the moment, similar to 2019 to 2020. No new money coming in necessarily, and if it is to come in, it's probably going to go into Bitcoin, and then when it goes into Bitcoin, there will become a point where it will exit Bitcoin into altcoins for people to stack sats. So like I say, that's something for you to think about, rather than like I say, I don't know, I mean, everyone's got their own trading strategy, but this is mine, and this is my preference. This is how I like to play it, and I'm grateful in many ways for this destruction of all the charts, but especially altcoins, because it will lead us into a really good area where we can think about doing those kinds of trades. And we'll probably be static for a while. I can't imagine the confidence is going to enter the market again for huge volumes of cash to enter all altcoins and Bitcoin and everything like that. It's probably not going to do that. It's probably going to be a slow trickle like it was throughout 2019 into 2020 before it went crazy. Yeah. So we basically play that game. It's slow, but it's lucrative. It's not unheard of to be able to make 2, 3, 4x's on these rotation trades. Sorry, my daughter's trying to open the door there. sorry about that. And so yeah, that's basically what we're looking to achieve here. So I thought I'd just show you a couple of altcoins, ones that you've all heard of, and what they look like at the, throughout that period. If you've not been around in the market, this is generally the difference between different altcoins, right? We can trade them successfully based on their own individual merit when the time comes. This is Chainlink. This is what Chainlink looked like prior to 2021. A very nice looking chart, I have to say, which is one of the reasons I decided to pick it up as it came closer and closer to these two tops, which is basically around $4 to $5. So I picked some up on that dump. Why? That's why. It's a very historical level to buy, and I'll be looking for it to trend up over time from that level. Now this was one of the holy grails of altcoins. It lost its popularity through the mania stage, but it was certainly an outperformer of Bitcoin for the most part, and a very tradable chart. But look at the way that it looks. Generally, a very good looking chart. Now there are other coins that don't have that kind of read that could be traded again separately to their individual merit. I'm not highlighting these to say trade these. I'm just giving you an example of what things looks like before the mania stage. Now this sort of thing is going to become more relevant to a lot of altcoins as we speak. Complete underperformers, horrendous, devastating charts, but simple and strategic ways to trade it. Itchy cloud, conversion baselines, all those sort of things can apply. We get ourselves decent runs and rallies from major supports and so on and so on. That's not a move to be sniffed at. That's a 130% move, certainly decent from another support, probably up and out about an 80%, and then obviously we got these two big runs as well. So lots of reasons to think about altcoins specifically as a rotationary event, and charts that can be traded individually, rather than the entire thing being an up only asset class. We're going to go Bitcoin first, we're going to rotate into altcoins and then back into Bitcoin, determined by a Bitcoin dominance chart, and then the individual charts that we look at for altcoins. So there is obviously other ways you can go about trading these, all these charts here. Obviously fundamentals count for something. I was talking about XRP, for instance. XRP does not look good particularly versus its Bitcoin pair. It's a bit of a no-go zone, but if you wanted to buy XRP, I wouldn't hold it against you, because obviously you could think about a tradable event being the court case. That's not something I would be looking to trade myself. I'd much prefer to trade a chart, but there are fundamentals and other reasons why things will pop, and you could buy into certain things as a result of that. But generally speaking, we're talking about a rotationary cycle starting again, and the starting block is a Bitcoin position, which is again why I've been buying Bitcoin all the way down, and this is why you should really focus on just Bitcoin for the moment until we come to a rotation-y kind of vibe on the Bitcoin dominance, to which we're not at the moment. So there's plenty of opportunity right around the corner. This is square one. Square one's a good place to be, because it's the beginning of a new journey, and the journey, like I say, if it's anything like the last one, has been pretty bloody lucrative. You can trade altcoins to Bitcoin, you can do whatever it is that you want throughout this period, and wait for the next time where all of that hard work that you've done from trading charts, stacking sats, suddenly becomes fully realized when everybody else steps in and Matt Damon gets all his mates around and goes, come on, let's buy, come on, flow in some new money. All that new money comes on the top of your money, making you a clever trader, effectively, with a long-term plan. So always think about the long term, but throughout that, you know, this is the process that we're going to follow now, and it's the same one that we followed for the last few years, but became less relevant as we basically reached a peak. It was great because obviously, you know, it's the same strategy applied, you know, buy, rotate into altcoins from here. The same strategy applied, it just became effectively too easy. So effectively, you're buying into altcoins here and you get out of altcoins here, which is basically what we did. Each time we came to a support, I have to say though, I did actually go back into a Bitcoin just in case, back into Bitcoin just in case, back into Bitcoin just in case, back into Bitcoin just in case. That is how we're going to play this game. It works, it worked well, we're going to do it again, we're probably going to do it for a couple of years before everything goes absolutely bloody mental again, which it will, because it always does. But the economy and all markets don't really favour mental moves right now. It's a restabilisation of price across the board. I'm not looking for major, huge bear markets for traditional markets. I'm looking for participants to start stepping in at these individual areas. This could be the first one. This could be the major one. This would certainly be a huge one. It's not as bad as everybody says it is. It's going to be determined by inflation figures, which are likely to peak next month, and then from that peak we'll start to see a steady rebalancing of all markets, coming back to what was a normal trajectory of going up before the pandemic, which was here, and then the mania began. So we're probably just going to be trending in this general vibe like this, which suggests to me that yeah, the restabilization will take place, and this will be on Nasdaq basically coming down to these kind of areas and then start to trend and then continue with its path of up only, similar to that of Bitcoin. We're not talking immediate, we're talking over a year or two, but it will all work out in the end. It's very obvious to me, it always has been, and it will continue to be, but what I'm trying to put across is that it's not going to be as easy as it was. However, there is a process, there's a formula, and it's a very tradable environment. Right, thank you for watching. Hope you have a nice day. Like I say, join the Patreon if you want to. Otherwise, the Telegram's free. All the links in the description. Hope you have a nice day. Take it easy.